Hello entrepreneurs, welcome to NOBOSS TV Discussion 12. Let's get started. In the previous discussion, you wrote your statements and realized your overall company vision. Now in this discussion, we're going to talk about the essentials to getting and staying organized. This discussion is the turning point for you and your business. So I really want you to sit back on this discussion because from this point on, we're going to start putting things in motion and you're going to have a lot of stuff going on. So, I want to start this discussion with one of my biggest pet peeves. It absolutely drives me insane when I hear a new entrepreneur say, it's a business expense, we could just write it off. Starting a business is not an excuse to go on a shopping spree. It does matter because you haven't made any money yet. And the money that you're spending is coming out of your pocket. It's coming out of the pocket of your investors or your partner. That money could be used to improve your product or advertise your business. Okay? So now that I have that off my chest, let's talk about your workspace. Your workspace is where you're going to do your best thinking. You're going to get the most productivity out of your time. It's your sanctuary. Now, a storefront is one thing, if that's what you need for your business. But if you need office space where it's just you and a desk sitting in the middle of the room, ask yourself if that's really necessary right now. Because you could hold off on renting that space and have a home office. You could be in your bedroom or be a kitchen table entrepreneur or start up in the garage. But if you're going to work at home, there's a few things that are really important. One, it needs to be free of internal interruptions from your kids, your spouse, your roommate. So I want you to look closely at the dynamics of your household to determine where's the best place for you to work. What's the best time of day for you to work? And it may mean rearranging your normal schedule so that you can work on your business. When the kids are at school or your spouse is at work, that's 5 to 6 hours right there. But if you use that time to do the laundry or work on your motorcycle, then by the time you're ready to work on your business, everyone's coming home from their day, and now you can't think, you can't make phone calls, and of course you're constantly being interrupted. You also need to think about personal interruptions, family and friends. And I say that because you may need to set boundaries. Because once they know that you're starting a business and you work at home, for some reason, family and friends feel like they could just drop by anytime they want. And I'm speaking from experience. You know, that friend that comes over at 9 in the morning for coffee on their way to work, and then the one that comes over at noon because it's lunchtime, so they thought you were going to take a break, and then that one that comes at 2:30 because she works banker hours, so what you doing? 4:30 friend that comes over because they just got off work and they thought they'd see what you were up to before they went home. Before you know it, you've spent your entire day socializing, not getting any work done, and maybe not even making any money. And I think I've mentioned before that NOBOSS was founded on trying to get my time back. I mean, I was reclaiming my time way back in 1990. Because when I started my first business, everyone wanted to start one too, which is fine. But I had spent hours talking to people about their business ideas. And then I had started giving away the books that I had. And at the point where I had nothing else to give, I literally started writing NOBOSS as an outline to say, here, go do your thing. So I'm speaking from experience when I say these things. Next is your mailing address. You may find that some information you need, like legal documents, need to arrive by mail. And while it may be convenient to use your home address, some suppliers and government agencies deem residential addresses as unacceptable for business purposes. When it comes to licensing, I've lived on the West Coast since 1984 between California and Nevada. And I know for a fact that some cities won't issue, a $10 business license for home businesses because they consider them briefcase businesses. Las Vegas. So These are the little things that you have to think about if you're going to use your home address. Now that e-commerce is an acceptable method of doing business, e-commerce laws require us to have an address on our emails and websites. Your business may need an official mailing address to validate the legitimacy of your business. I know that Google and PayPal and UPS, they want to send mail to you so that they can validate your business. If using your residential address is going to be an issue, consider renting a P.O. box from the post office. It'll give you privacy on the internet. It'll eliminate cost of reprinting documents, so if and when you do move your business, you don't have to change anything. You can keep the P.O. box there, printed on your materials. If you need a physical address and you can't use your home address, you can also rent a P.O. box with a physical address. And places like PostNet and FedEx sublocations, they rent P.O. boxes. So that P.O. box number that they give you is actually your suite number. So it'll be 111 Main Street, Suite 123. And that Suite 123 is actually your P.O. box. The other option is registered agent or statutory agent or agent. Depends on where you live and the term they use. But if you're incorporating your business in another state, let's say you're in Ohio and you want to incorporate in a tax-free state like Nevada, you can do that, but you'll need a registered agent because you don't live there. So when you incorporate, that part of that service is a mailing address so that those incorporation documents can come to the Nevada address. You can have your other business mail go there as well. And part of the service is they'll forward your mail to you on a regular basis, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis. The next is your business hours. Don't confuse your business hours with your office hours. So while you may be 24/7 online, these are your business hours. However, you still need to have office hours to communicate with suppliers and customers. So consider what hours of the day your office hours. What's appropriate and what's not. You can't call customers at 2 o'clock in the morning just because you're awake and you have some free time. And likewise, I mean, can you imagine the cable man calling you to talk about hooking up cable services at 2 o'clock in the morning? Doing business online is all about trust and being consistent. It is key to success when you're doing business online. If a customer is looking at your site and it's not fresh, it's outdated, it has no contact information, then just forget it, because it could be something just as simple as that causes your customer to click off and go buy somewhere else. And you don't want to leave your customers feeling any doubt that you're a real business after you've worked hard to put your website up, you've worked hard to attract their attention, and they've come to your website. The last thing you want to do is for them to look at your site and go, not sure, and then click off and go somewhere else. So you want to make sure that your customers feel like your business is real, and you want to make sure that they feel like they can trust doing business with you. The next one is communications. And there's many ways that you can communicate with your customers. You can use your cell phone to conduct business. But please, don't answer your phone. Hello? If your hours are 8 to 2, I don't care if it's a pastor from your church calling. Answer the phone as if it is your business. Good morning, this is Lisa with NOBOSS. How can I help you? Oh, hey girl, how you doing? Because it's better to be professional on a non-business call than be unprofessional on a business call. If you're having a business and you're going to have employees, you can go with the landline. Now, you don't use them at home anymore, but when you go into businesses, there are landlines there. They're still using landlines. They need them for, extension 101 and 102. They need it to transfer calls and all the other features that you're not going to get on a cell phone. Another option is a virtual phone line. I did some work for a marketing agency, and it freaked me out one day because I had to make a phone call. I had been there a couple of weeks, and I had to make a phone call. And I realized, like, where the hell are the telephones? And it was like, oh, we don't have phones. And I said, well, how are you guys getting calls? How are you doing business and you don't have phones? And that's because they had a virtual phone line. I think it was a Grasshopper or something like that. But basically, you get assigned a phone number, someone calls the number, they go to voicemail, and then that voicemail generates an automatic email. So the person calling thinks that they're calling a live number, but they're not. That's an option, and it's cost effective because it's only like $20, $30, $40 a month for the most basic of services, if that's something you need to do. Video calling conferencing, very popular, especially if you're doing, consulting, accounting, legal work where you have to work face to face. You may want to throw up some documents on the screen while you're talking to your customer. Video calls and conferencing is very popular. 800 numbers, if your business is national or worldwide. And luckily, they're not as expensive as they used to be, because just like we don't pay for long distance calls anymore, we don't pay for incoming 800 calls anymore. But most importantly, whatever method of communication you choose, be sure that it's appropriate for your business. So, for example, you don't want to have to teach your customers how to use video calls just because it's cheap, or you think it's cool, or it's easy for you to use. If your target market are senior citizens, you don't want to have to teach them to use something that they're not familiar with just to do business with you. That's just another barrier the customer has to get through in order to do business with you, and you want to eliminate as many barriers as possible. Once they've found you and you're connected, you want to be able to go directly into catching the sale. So you don't want to have to go through all of that. The next one is office supplies. Office supplies are part of the organizational process. There's nothing worse than talking to a potential customer and not having a pen or paper, notepads, a tablet, my cell phone's out of power. There's just nothing worse. So always have not only your business cards, but a calendar, a scheduler, something to keep yourself always prepared. Now, if your business is about scheduling appointments, like you do nails or hair or tattoos or something like that, where scheduling appointments is a regular thing for you, you really need to be more professional, more organized with always having something available. And what you'll find is in your organization is that it will allow you to step back at some point and look at your notes and look at your information, for example, because this is data. This is history for your business. History that you can analyze later. And you may look at that information and say, you know what? Why are customers never scheduled on Sundays? Maybe that should be the day that you're closed, or you do something else like your mailing list or running ads, because you know what? Customers never schedule on Sundays. Or I may get one customer. What's the point in opening the doors and turning on the lights if I never get any customers on this day? Office supplies is statistically the highest expense on your financial statement, only after rent expense. So you can really run up some numbers when it comes to office expenses. So I really want you to, buy only what you need, work with what you have, and be really conservative when it comes to shopping. When it comes to larger purchases, try to plan for them and buy them when you can afford to. Because one of the biggest wastes of money is for small businesses is when they have to transfer from the old to the new. And if you purchase for the long term, purchase with the big picture in mind, you won't spend that $100 for the smaller version now, only 6 months later to go get the one that you actually want. And finally, your filing system. This is an ideal time to put your filing system in place. So I want you to give it some thought, because you're going to be collecting receipts and documents and paperwork and all kinds of stuff. Things that you really need to hang on to. Not only that, the government requires you as a business to retain business records. And some of those records could be for a year, they could be for 7 years. Some documents are for a lifetime. Not only do you need to retain information just for references, or because the government stipulates it, but these are the same documents that you're going to need for tax purposes. So have a place for this stuff. Now, you may no longer write checks, but that doesn't mean that your customers don't write checks. You may allow people to send you bills in your email, or you may have auto pay set up to pay your bills, but that doesn't mean that your suppliers and your vendors still don't send bills in the mail, still don't send invoices in the mail. So however you handle this is your executive decision, but you do need to be aware of it, and you need to be aware of the reason why. Okay, I've attached a starter list of files that most any business will need, and you can download them in the link below. And they're grouped together by financial files, payroll files, general office files, and you can pick and choose what you need for your specific business and what you don't. So if you're not hiring employees, then don't worry about setting up payroll files. Okay, but they're there for you to get an idea of, wow, I do need places for this stuff to go. And then every day when you have receipts because you ran and got gas or whatever the case may be, you have a file to just throw that stuff into, so that it's not piling up on the corner of your desk somewhere. So it's time for you to go shopping, for you to find that mailing address, your phone services, communication methods that you're going to use, office supplies. And you've noticed I haven't talked about your computer or internet or anything like that, because you're probably online. So if there's any softwares that you need to download, like MS Office or your accounting software, or an industry specific software that you need to download, that's something you really need to do right now. Get familiar with it, put things in place. The cost of whatever you need to buy or whatever you need to set up, that number is going to go into your overhead budget, which is going to be part of your overall startup. And then finally, it should be time for another meeting, because it's been a while since you've had a meeting with your partner or reviewed all that we've covered up to this point. This concludes discussion 12. Click that like and subscribe button below. And remember, a real boss has no boss.